As an MIT PhD in biological engineering, it's my view that the fear-mongering is really being used to suppress dissent. It's being used to support mandated medicine, and it's being really used to support, crashing of this economy. And I talked about that, and as a part of talking about that, and many of you, I also shared with you the foundations of the flaw of this entire fear-mongering that's taking place. And the flaw is taking place with another F, using fake science. We live in a world right now where it's very easy to use ignorance and fear and to use those two prongs to really impose policy on people. And the person that's imposing this policy right now on all of the citizens of this country is a gentleman by the name of Anthony Fauci. And I want to use this graphic to really talk about him. And those of you, by the way, on Instagram, you can follow this on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, or we'll be putting the video up. But this picture pretty much captures what this individual is about. He is not Anthony Fauci, an individual. He actually represents, he's a face of multiple entities. In this case, I have at least about 7 of them who work together. The CDC, the WHO. We know the former head of the WHO was out of the Communist Party of China. The current person, Tedros, is extremely closely aligned with them. We have the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. We have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We have the Clinton Global Initiative, and we have Big Pharma. If you look at the 3 over here on the bottom, Chan Zuckerberg, Bill and Melinda Gates, and Clinton Global Initiative, these people are extremely, extremely tight with pharma. In particular, they know, as I've shared over and over again, that the pharmaceutical industry, when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, which are synthetic compounds that they have to go through a whole regulatory process, are actually failing. Year over year, pharma's investing more and more in R&D, and they're finding less and less new they're getting less and less new allowances by the FDA. Even the FDA, which has a revolving door with Big Pharma, is recognizing that these drugs have major side effects, so they're getting less and less new allowances. So that's what's going on for Big Pharma over here. Over here, they see this enormous opportunity through mandating vaccines. Now, I've said over and over again, this is not a pro-vax or anti-vax argument. It's more an issue of medical freedom. One size does not fit all, and in fact, modern medicine teaches us that you want to give the right medicine for the right person at the right time. This is called personalized medicine or precision medicine. I get invited all over the world to give talks on this. But fundamentally, even the foundations of the discoveries of modern medicine are being violated by saying everyone should get the same medicine. Now, what does that sound like to you? That sounds to me like an authoritarian model of top-down medicine, which means a finite set of people are going to tell everyone else what to do because they want to use all of us to serve their economic interests. One of the countries that does this extremely well, that treats their people like this, is China. The Chinese Communist Party, in many ways, what they've become is, imagine taking all the heads of industry of the United States, all the heads of the Fortune 1000 companies, and merging them with the corrupt government officials. That's what you would call crony or state capitalism to the ultimate. And that is what has happened in China. And China treats their people like dirt, treats their people horribly. They're places called cancer cities. They use their people in obscene ways to maximize profit and to actually completely raid the U.S. economy by basically paying their people nothing. That's what the Chinese government have done extraordinarily well. And as a part of that, most of manufacturing in the world gets done in China. We're not talking about software. We're not talking about service economy. We're talking about manufacturing. That is what China has done in an extraordinarily powerful way. And that is what we're seeing right now. China wants to further control that. Several weeks ago, about a month ago, Donald Trump demanded that China change its trade tariffs in order to make it more fair. And that was really the point at which all of this occurred in terms of all the coronavirus, fear-mongering, etc. So let's go back and look at how China actually does this. If you look at the history of China, China now has one of the world's biggest vaccine, if not the world's biggest, manufacturing of vaccines, the biggest consumer and the creator of vaccines. And the tentacles of China, and when I mean the tentacles, I mean through directly and externally, span so many different aspects of the United States government. If you take an organization like Wells Fargo, if you want to go get a mortgage, there are various different lenders. Well, Wells Fargo always undercuts all the other lenders. Well, go look at who the biggest investor for Wells Fargo was during the major mortgage crisis and events. It was one of the largest Chinese investors. And so think about this. One of the largest Chinese investors through Wells Fargo undercuts all the other mortgages. And as a function of that, most of the mortgages of many Americans are held by Wells Fargo. Now consider, as Americans go out of work and the economy crashes, as of now we have 10 million people unemployed. 10 million people unemployed. Well, you go out of work, you can't afford your mortgage. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be renting those same homes owned up and through by one of the largest Chinese lenders from China. So this is an example of where America is going to become an indentured servant of people in China, essentially very, very wealthy elites in China connected to the Chinese Communist Party. There are many other ways in which China is starting to control policy in the United States. I want to share with you one of those right now. Some of you may be aware that there's an institution called the Harvard School of Public Health. The reason I bring this up is we just saw a couple of years ago, a couple of months ago, a professor at Harvard who was arrested because he was likely quadruple dipping. He was getting a salary from Harvard as the chairman of one of the biological sciences department. He was getting funding from Harvard. He was getting NIH funding, which means he's getting salary. Then he was getting funding from the NIH, I believe from the DoD for his research funding. Separate from that, he was also taking money from the Chinese government through one of their 1,000 Talents program and literally taking talent from the United States and sending it over to China. Fortunately, he was caught. If you look at many of the academics in the United States at the major institutions, many of them are involved in some way or the other selling intellectual property directly or indirectly to the Chinese government and fostering their control in various parts of the U.S. economy. In the world today, or for that matter, in the United States, definitely, the Harvard School of Public Health, we keep hearing about public health, public health. The Harvard School of Public Health controls a lot of the public policy, be it immunization, be it vaccination, be it mandated medicine, what's good or right for you and me. Well, I just want to share with you something. Let me go over here on one of the interesting things that's taking place, that has taken place, and I'm going to play this for you. Let me play. This was the fact that the Harvard School of Public Health recently was taken over by a very large Chinese foundation, which essentially took over the School of Public Health and essentially has their name on it. And when you take over a school of public health, it's not just the money you give, it's not hands off, there are all sorts of implicit things. So here's Peter Edwards. Let me play this.
Dedication to charitable works is well known and is very deep-seated. They are therefore extremely pleased, and their trustees are extremely pleased, to be able to make a very, very substantial donation to Harvard to establish the school on a permanent basis.
This school is about science, it's about policy, it's about economics, it's about organization of healthcare delivery. It's a very...
The reason I wanted to share this is, and I'll come back to this, this individual belongs to one of the wealthiest Chinese investment groups, and they have essentially, let me just grab some water here. And they have essentially put in about 400 million into Harvard School of Public Health. But more importantly, now the Harvard School of Public Health is known as the T.F. Chan School of Public Health. And this organization is one of the largest investment houses in Hong Kong and China. And let me tell you, the leader who executed this, Gerald Chan, it's named after his father, what his view on what really delivers health to the world. Let me just play this for you and you'll understand the concern I have and the concern everyone else should have. Let me go over to this. And this is Gerald Chan talking about what he believes is the most important innovation for humankind. Here you go.
If you look at the history of public health, you will find that the one innovation that had the largest impact on human health, that's vaccination.
So you may not know this, but vaccines are actually not big money makers. They're not like cancer drugs. They are important tools for protecting and saving lives.
So what I wanted to share there, here is an individual saying that the most important innovation of humankind has been vaccination, which is actually a false statement to save infectious diseases. What it actually was, as I've mentioned over and over again, it's been sanitation, it's been infrastructure, it was really investments that took place. If you look at the history in the 1900s, it was eliminating child labor, it was nutrition, it was a vitamin A therapy, it was sanitation. The plumber and the sanitation worker did far more for helping public health and eliminate infectious diseases long before the advent of vaccines. So what you have is, you have someone who has just donated $400 million to the School of Public Health. This occurred, several years ago. And an individual who's based out of China, meaning the group, and that organization is controlling U.S. health policy or has a lot of say in it. And if you don't think so, let me just show you this over here. This is out of an article right out of the BBC, Hong Kong's tycoon philanthropist Ronnie Chan. And it really talks about what they just did. Hong Kong's property tycoon Ronnie Chan family made headlines last week for giving $350 million to Harvard University. The donation to Harvard, the biggest ever to the university, as well as for the Chan Family Trust, a Morningside Foundation, has generated controversy among Chinese social media users. And essentially, it goes on to essentially talk about that in a recent meeting with journalists, Mr. Chan, the chairman of the family firm Hong Lung Group, brushed off the criticism. And the issue is, why aren't you putting this in China? Why are you putting this into a U.S. university? So the fundamental issue here is that you have policy, which is a brain trust of where you determine the trajectory, which is the Harvard School of Public Health when it comes to at least the United States, being really driven by people directly and indirectly who have put significant amounts of money from China. If we go back to this diagram, the other thing you notice is that the three people here below, or the three organizations, the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the Clinton Foundation. By the way, Anthony Fauci, I believe we should verify this, but I believe he's on the leadership council of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And what you see here is these three organizations on the bottom are totally big pharma and the notion that everyone needs to be vaccinated. To the left here of Fauci, you see big pharma. Big pharma, as I mentioned over and over again, has an economic problem. They need to move into mandating vaccines. And this crisis, this manufactured fear-mongered crisis, when you actually look at the numbers of people that have died, about 6,000, 7,000, 10,000, whatever that number is, that number is so small compared to the 600,000 people who die from heart disease, the nearly 580,000 people who die from cancer, the 440,000 people who die from medical errors, or the other 200,000 people who die from prescription drug issues. We're taking an issue which has been completely hyped by Fauci to really drive an economic policy which is to the detrimental of the American worker. We're seeing 10 million people today out of work. We're seeing people quarantined in their homes and thinking that, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, that this one-size-fits-all model is the right way to go. And this is all being founded on one fundamental issue and a lie, and it's based on an ignorance of the understanding of the immune system. So again, let's review this. And because everyone needs to understand this, there are viruses all around us. We have 380 trillion viruses in us. We all get viruses, okay? Viruses come into us, they flow through us, and a the immune system, most people's immune system is resilient. We take the virus in, our innate, our adapter, our interferon, our microbiome, all these amazing things that nature has given us, know how to manage the virus, handle it, and respond to it. And then ultimately you generate some type of antibodies and everything adjusts in your body. You get stronger and you move forward. That's the normal case. There is a small set of people, unfortunately, in the United States, that set is growing, of immunocompromised people. Those people whose immune systems are weakened and dysfunctional by a lifetime of poor choices, by a lifetimes of epigenetic issues, different diseases, people who take monoclonal antibodies, diabetes, etc. Many of which are, by the way, preventable, but Big Pharma does not want to prevent that. They thrive on growing that pool of immunocompromised people, right? That's where they make their trillions of dollars, which, by the way, is going down. So they want more and more and more immunocompromised people. The more immunocompromised people you have, their bodies, their dysfunctional immune systems, when it sees a pathogen coming, overreacts, okay? It overreacts through what's called a cytokine storm, and the body's overreaction results in damage to their own tissues, okay? So the pathogens, again, think about it, 380 trillion viruses in our body. Pathogens are coming and going, okay? Many of us grew up, we should, playing in dirt. We have dogs running inside and out, right? These viruses are everywhere. In the normal case, if you have a strong immune system and your immune health is in good condition, your body knows how to manage it and it gets stronger and more resilient. The immunocompromised are the ones, in that case, their bodies overreacts and attacks their body, etc. So this is the first thing that Mr. Fauci is not talking about this. This is why I say he should be indicted and he should be fired, because he's not advising the President of the United States properly. He is making this, and he knows what he's doing. And he's done this before with HIV and AIDS. I'm going to be doing a talk later this evening about this, how Mr. Fauci, with one of his comrades, Mr. Gallo, created the entire HIV AIDS pandemic lie. This is Mr. Fauci's second rodeo. That created a multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry for him and many of his friends in many of these organizations, scientific money, nonprofit money. And that was used to create this narrative that HIV causes AIDS when it doesn't fulfill Koch's postulates, which we'll talk about. So Fauci is doing the same thing here, but on a much grander scale. This time they're going for everything. And when I mean everything, it is to destroy the infrastructure of the United States in terms of its economy. And this is what I mean, that there's a war taking place. This will serve one country, China. China is a country that is going to profit from this. And it'll profit from it in a number of ways, many, many ways. First of all, their economy will grow. The Indian economy was growing at 6 to 7%. Now it's at 2%. The U.S. economy was still, because of Trump's effort, was starting to grow at 2%. Now it's going to grow at minus 3%. And what China will do is they're going to control supply. They will also use this opportunity to take their reserves of U.S. dollars and buy assets, which they've already done in the past at a song, which means real estate assets, commercial assets, significant a number of assets. That's what I mean, a war is taking place. A war is taking place, an economic war and also a psychological war. So those of you who are sitting there all concerned and afraid, etc., just remember that your fear is being driven by a fundamental fear that is based on fake science promoted by Mr. Pharma Fauci, because that's who he represents. So I think if we go back to this diagram again, around Fauci, you also have the CDC and the WHO. One of the things we all need to understand is that the CDC and the WHO work hand in glove. They work very close together. The WHO's previous chairman was literally from the Communist Party of China. The current person, Tedros, also has very close alliances with the Chinese Communist Party. This is, by the way, not conspiracy, it's just a matter of fact. The United States CDC, in alliance with the NIH, has funded, there's many, many reports you can find it, has worked closely with the Chinese CDC. In fact, several years ago, the National Institute of Health, which is run by one of Fauci's close friends, Francis Collins, gave the Chinese government around the Chinese CDC around $14.1 million. And you can look this up. And so it's not like the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese government has not been in alliance with the CDC. They quite well know what they're doing. In fact, it was given for surveillance. So if the NIH, which is our tax dollars, was given to the Chinese Disease Control Center, I find it very difficult to show that we didn't know all of this was going on. Moreover, yesterday, Mr. Fauci, now wanting to thump his chest, is saying, yes, I can't believe it that these Chinese wet markets are open in Wuhan, okay? Well, there have been, over the last 20 years, at least 10 papers written showing why those Chinese wet markets are a cause of infectious diseases. And I haven't seen Mr. Fauci say anything during that time. However, after I started hitting him and exposing him, now he's trying to act as though he cares for us and as though he's in opposition to China, when he has never said anything, in spite of the fact, if you look at The Lancet, if you look at articles, in fact, I think I have one right here. Let me go to this. Here's an interesting article that came out several years ago. Okay, this was written, if you look at it, in 2004. What does it say? Wet markets, a continuing source of severe acute respiratory syndrome and influenza. And it really it discusses this. Like this, there have been multiple articles. But just yesterday, now Fauci's acting as though he cares for U.S. interests against China. And he's saying, I can't believe these wet markets are open. Well, perhaps he who claims he's such an eminent scientist and an eminent medical doctor, maybe he didn't even read The Lancet, which is supposedly one of the #1 medical journals in the world. So what we have right now is a overtake of the United States government and its people, driven by one man, Anthony Fauci. And the President of the United States, he's gone through a grueling struggle with the Russia collusion, a grueling struggle with the impeachment, and he's got this one gentleman who is pushing fake science on the American people. And that fake science is as though a virus and a vaccine is going to wipe out all of America, as though it's going to wipe out the immune system of everyone. This is so far from the truth. He's not telling the truth. He's not telling people that the immune system, it's an overactive immune system caused by dysfunction. It's an overactive immune system caused by weakening. That immune system is what attacks our own bodies. Mr. Fauci is also not talking about the fact that there are many fundamental cheap solutions to beef up the immune system. So going back to fundamentals, the issue is that all of you should understand that you can take control of your immune health. Very, very simple things you can do. One of the most important things, as I keep saying, is vitamin D, sunlight, UVB radiation. If you can't do it, go get some D3. Okay? And I put forward a program how we can end the shutdown to the President of the United States by taking those people who are severely sick with the COVID and sick in critical care, how we can use high dosage vitamin D and A and vitamin C. And by the way, these are things that are in the literature. It makes me really wonder what kind of scientist or what kind of MD Fauci is, because it's all in the literature. And the fact that he has not used his podium on primetime TV to tell Americans that is why what he's doing is criminal. What is he waiting for? What is Fauci waiting for? Is he waiting for his buddies over here at all of these organizations? Let's go back here to get all set where they can control all of us. What is he waiting for? What is Fauci waiting for? Is he waiting for a point where we are all so in fear, that we are so drained, being cooped up in our homes, that we say, okay, whatever, do whatever you want to me. Give me all the vaccines, Fauci. Great. Put a chip in me. Great. Do it. Let Bill Gates run this country. Let Chan Zuckerberg and the Clinton Global Initiative. Is that what this is about? Because what I'm trying to tell everyone is next year, this time, what Mr. Fauci's laying pipe for is, yes, motor vehicles. Where's your vaccine card? Where's your vaccine card before you can go into the gym? And what that will do is it will create an enormous power for all of these people here. All of these people, it's not the United States government anymore. It is a external unit, where it serves and profits. All of those entities is who will be running our lives. That's what we're talking about. This is no longer something that's deep state conspiracy theory. We're talking about something extremely real, and it's being driven by one individual who is not telling the truth. Who's not telling the truth. He's not telling you that your immune system is strong. He's not telling you that your immune system needs vitamin D. You give your immune system vitamin D, and your body will create cathelicidins, which is an antimicrobial, and it helps destroy these microbes by disrupting their membrane. He's not talking about that. He's not talking about vitamin A. Again, these are pennies for all of us to use right now to end this shutdown and get back to work. He's not talking about that. Why is he not talking about that? Is he stupid? Or is he knows this and he's waiting for his buddies to push the vaccine, the big pharma agenda? What is going on? What is going on in this country that we've shut down the entire country and we're doing quantitative easing again, which is the Obama model to push crack onto everyone? What I mean by that is, make everyone basically dependent on a model of running an economy which has nothing to do with core foundations. That is what Fauci's doing right now. And it's all based on fake science, fake science, fake science. And that is how he's getting away with it. And I'm here to call him out because you know what? I didn't work hard all my life, bust my butt, be one of the top students, get all those degrees at MIT, and keep my mouth shut. But you know who's keeping their mouth shut? It is all those professors at Harvard School of Public Health who are controlled by Chinese money right now. It is those people at MIT who are controlled by Chinese money. It is most of these people at most academic institutions today are controlled by Chinese money. And that is what is going on. And Fauci's not doing this because he assumes you're stupid. He assumes you're stupid and you will kowtow to fear mongering. And I'm telling everyone needs to wake up and start taking care of your own health. You cannot trust the medical establishment anymore. You cannot trust Big Pharma. They want you to be immunocompromised. They want you to be scared. That is what Mr. Fauci's doing. He wants you to be scared. He wants the president to be scared, and he wants the American people to be scared. So next year, this time, all of us will be handcuffed with vaccines and Big Pharma mandating to us top-down medicine. Does that sound like America? No, that sounds like China to me. Top-down, the state tells you what to do. That is not the America that my parents left to come here to, and I don't think it's the America that many of you want to be part of. We are headed towards becoming economically, philosophically, biologically, and politically a colony of China. And I don't mean to be xenophobic, okay? Because I'll tell you this, the Chinese Communist Party treats its people like shit. It treats its people like dirt. And 6 months before all of this took place in China, the people of Wuhan were protesting en masse. Tens of thousands of protesters on the streets. Why? They wanted clean air. They wanted clean water and they wanted clean food. Okay, just like you and I want. Meanwhile, our government, our state capitalists, our governors of most of this country have delivered us dirty water, dirty air, dirty food, and they keep most of our people in ignorance by not teaching them what to put in their mouth, what actually builds immune health. As I've said over and over and over again, it's actually pretty simple if you take a systems approach. And a systems approach is to understand that your body is an interconnected system and your immune system wants to support you. It wants to stay in what's called homeostasis, okay? You support your body with vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, which comes from the sun, the green leafy fruits and vegetables, the citrus fruits. You can get it from supplements. Ideally, you should get it from foods. If you do that, your body moves into its own homeostasis, which means where it likes to be, where it likes to support you. That's called your natural system state. And when you support your body to do that, you know what? Your body takes care of you. And what can you do? So I've identified the problem here. We need to, number one, get rid of this guy, Fauci. What I've done right now on the political side, if everyone wants to, if you look down at the Twitter below, right where you're looking at here, there is a link there that you can click on. I think it's right here. Let me go to it. That if everyone goes to Twitter, and I think if you even go to Facebook or Instagram, there's a link that I put out. It says, time to fire Fauci, your voice matters, add your name to the petition. So I put up a petition there, and it's right on the page, and you can go right there, and oops, let me go to the video here. You can go right to this page, and you can literally click on that link and just put your name there. Okay, it's very simple. Everyone go online right now and add your name. Let's get millions of people in this country telling that hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, I don't know what the number is going to be, but send this to all your friends. We need to get rid of this guy. He's been in there way too long. He's been in there 40 years, and he's supported by all of these people. This is not anything that's accidental. He's been in there, and he's got, by the way, Hollywood behind him too, okay? All the Hollywood, a lot of stupid people there. You know, they all want to be part of the AIDS movement or Live AIDS. You know, they get to sell their records. And this guy Fauci has had close association with all of them. And by the way, let me also make a point here. The Chinese government owns most of Hollywood now. They bought all of AMC theaters. The biggest warlord of the Communist Party bought all of the AMC theaters. So you have all of the AMC theaters, which is culture being controlled. Most of the Hollywood stars kowtow to China. You will not see any movie critical of China. This is not accidental. You have the Harvard School of Public Health owned by China. You have most of the major universities are owned. And you have Fauci, who basically controls probably 95% of the academics in the biological sciences. That's why not one scientist at any of the major institutions has called him out on this, his fear-mongering. Think about it. We have China controlling major assets in this country. We have China controlling most of the financial assets, and with this downturn, they can control more. You also have China controlling public policy through people like Fauci. So what I can tell you in closing is that we need to get rid of this guy, and that you can do. Let's sign this petition. Let's make this go viral. That's number one. The second thing we can do is start taking care of our own health and recognize that real health is not going to come top down. It's not going to come top down, because if you think it's going to come down from the state telling you, you do this, you do this, you do this, you're basically setting yourselves up for becoming a pawn in a Communist Party type structure, a state control model. That's what China wants. That's not what America is. So we're at a very important inflection point. The decisions we make and the defiance we show will determine the future of this country. And that defiance begins with knowledge. You can't just be sort of defiant without any clear understanding. That's why most of my life has been trying to educate people on how the body is a system. You know, I have this book up here called Your Body, Your System. You don't have to buy the book, but the point is, I have always felt that you have to treat the body in a holistic way, in an engineering way. That's why when I decided to run for Senate, the entire basis of our campaign, if you go to it, is really about teaching people that you can't get truth, freedom, or health unless we understand that you take a systems approach to this. And part of that, if you go to the website, let me go over to it, is that those people go to the website will see that the entire function of our campaign is truth, freedom, and health. Truth, freedom, and health. And how do you get to truth, freedom, and health? Well, you get to truth, freedom, and health by understanding the system that interconnects truth, freedom, and health. Well, it begins with freedom. It begins with you voicing your defiance. It begins with you demanding debate and discourse. And Anthony Fauci is getting away without any debate or discourse. No debate or discourse. We need to start that. We need to start challenging him on his fake science of the immune system. Anthony Fauci, a shill for Big Pharma, a shill for the Clinton Global Initiative, a shill for the Melinda Gates Foundation, a shill for WHO, a shill for the Chan Zuckerberg, and a shill for Big Pharma is keeping people ignorant purposefully of the foundations of the immune system, which deserves to be supported. And the fact that he has not talked about vitamin DNA says everything. So we need to have freedom. With freedom, we can practice science, not the prostituted science that's taking place today. I'm talking about real science. We apply the scientific method, not scientific consensus. And by doing that, we get to truth. And from truth, we can create real problems. We can identify the real problems and innovate real solutions. For the health of our bodies, we get it stronger, or for the health of our infrastructure, we get that stronger. And from that health, we're strong enough to fight for freedom. So strong bodies, strong infrastructure, we have people who can fight for freedom, more truth, better health. And that's a positive cycle. The negative cycle in this is that we have people of ill health who are weak, who become lethargic on drugs, don't care about life. And we end up, at a different point where we're not doing truth, freedom, and health anymore, but what we are doing is fake problems and fake solutions. That's what we're looking at, and that's what Fauci wants. And this is an amazing opportunity for people to take over this economy. And don't you think, and you better wake up, don't you think that China is building up its actual military right now? Go look at it. They're building up their Air Force, their military, their ground forces, while the United States, Trump was attempting to do that with beefing up our economy. And what's really happened is our economy has been weakened, and you can't build up your military strength, especially supporting your defenses and your borders. So we have a fundamental situation in this country where we're weakening ourselves by the fact that we do not understand this interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. But you can do that. Anyone who wants to support this campaign, and everyone should be out there supporting this campaign. And I say that because a person like me who truly represents you, who's one of you, it's rare a guy like me ever even runs for office. And the fact that I've decided to run for office should get everyone excited. We need people like us fighting for us. And what I've decided to do, as most of you know, is when people come and support our campaign, I want to teach you how the body is a system. I want to teach you the principles of all systems. So you donate. I don't want your money without giving anything back. You support us. I want to support you, which is to teach you how all systems work and how your body is a system. So think about it. We're at an important point in human history for this country. If we do not make ourselves awaken to this fundamental issue that God, nature, has given us amazing resilience, that the body is not some weak constitution. However, there are people who want to make our bodies weak, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. That's what they want to rely on, because when they weaken us, they can take control. Power, profit, and control. And how do you do that? With fear. Fear, fear, fear. And what they have done, and we should not allow them to do it anymore after today, is that what they have done to all of you is to use ignorance. Use the ignorance of the immune system to try to dictate to you that the only way out of this is to quote unquote flattening the curve. And there's no discussion in here about immune health. And that's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about immune health. We need to understand how the body is a system, which I've made tools available for you. And everyone here needs to understand, I sent a protocol to the President of the United States, which lays it out what we can do for our loved ones, for our elderly, and also for you. I'd like to take some questions before I end. And Jennifer, if there's any questions, you can send them over and I'll look at them. I'll see what's going over on YouTube and we'll do some understanding. But I hope this is clear. By the way, everyone, if you're online and you see, if you go to Shiva for Senate, if you go to shivaforsenate.com and you go to petition, Petition, and it's Fire Fauci. If you go there, there is a very nice petition here, and I'll read it out to people. Let me go over here. Let me transition again. If you go to shivaforsenate.com, Fire Fauci, this is what I put out there. It says Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, indictment and firing of Anthony Fauci. And right here, you can see what we have here. It says, Dear Mr. President, I'm signing this petition to sincerely request your administration immediately indict and fire Anthony Fauci. I agree with Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai assessment, which he stated in a letter to you on March 23rd that, quote, the current trajectory of Dr. Anthony Fauci's public health policy will result in short and long-term destruction of our citizens' immune health as well as our nation's economic health, perhaps a conscious and intended goal. Dr. Fauci's policy at best is based on the 1950s outdated one-size-fits-all, non-personalized approach to medicine and public health, and at worst is derived from a fake science understanding of the immune system, one which Dr. Fauci over the 5 decades has perpetuated and exploited to build his career. End quote. Dr. Fauci has significant and deep conflicts of interest with Big Pharma that has a singular aim, force medical mandates, e.g. vaccines, upon all Americans. Big Pharma is failing and is in economic peril. Forced and mandated vaccines are the only path for pharma's future. During Dr. Fauci's tenure, Americans have been led down a path of corporate solutions delivering policies that have led America to the lowest longevity rates and the highest infant mortality rates in the Western world. In the current situation, purposely driven by fear-mongering and fake science, Dr. Fauci's allies, Big Pharma, Gates Foundation, Clinton Global Initiatives, Chan Zuckerberg, WHO and CDC, and the Chinese Communist Party will profit enormously both politically and economically at the expense of the American working people. It is time we focus on the immune health of the American people, which Big Pharma has zero interest in advancing. It is time we fire and indict Anthony Fauci to send a much needed and long awaited signal to his allies in Big Pharma. And that's what we just put up. Wow, this is growing. People are signing up. That's awesome. Okay, we have nearly 400 signatures in the less than 10 minutes since I announced this. So listen, this is a government of and by the people, of and by the people. We are not the Chinese. We're not the Chinese government. And even the people in China want, freedom. That's what was going on in Hong Kong before this virus came and we don't hear any dissent. Okay, it's all gone away. There was massive dissension movements taking place all across the world, and they've all disappeared because of this. So it's time we start taking control back of our lives. We recognize that there is a war. We open our eyes. There's a war taking place. And we need to fire this guy Fauci to send a signal that we're going to turn the tide, that we need to get rid of this guy. And the third thing is we need to end the shutdown. We need to go back to work. We need to take care of, obviously, the immunocompromised, but we need to juice up our immune systems with very simple stuff and get back to work. Let's see what we got here. Commenting, I wanted to die. People like that don't just get fired. And do some of the best. Let's see. Let's see what else we have here. I'm trying to get different things. Jen, do you have any questions? We have a ton of stuff here on YouTube. Wow. It's hard for me to keep up with all this. Let me say. Arrest the whore Fauci. Okay. Contact Sean Hannity. Let's see if I can stop this. God bless you, Dr. Shiva. Put a link to the description. Everyone sign the petition. Fire Fauci. Put the petition link in the chat. Okay, let me put the petition link in the chat on YouTube. Let me put it out. ShivaForSenate.com. Let me put this up there. ShivaForSenate.com. If people want to know, /PETI petition /fire/Fauci. Okay, there we go. All right. So let me see what do we have on Instagram over here. Why don't you talk to the news channels? Well, you got to understand. That's a great question. Why don't I talk to the news channels? Okay, let's just look at this. The flow of money, everyone, you got to understand, goes like this. The pharmaceutical companies are the ones who give money to the lobbyists and the Congress people. They take that money, and when it comes for their ad campaigns, guess who they give it to? All the media companies. So this is why the media companies do not want to talk about vitamin D. They do not want to talk about vitamin A because they have this cycle of money coming through them. The pharmaceutical companies control the politicians, the lawyer lobbyists. So they're zip on this. They do not want to talk about immune health. Big Pharma controls, the deep state of Big Pharma controls the entire narrative. And the very, very stupid and very enslaved mainstream media needs the money from the politicians when they run for ads. People are asking about how 5G plays into this. Well, how does 5G play into this? Look, we have to start wondering, okay, first of all, what is the purpose of 5G, okay? 5G was created because it allows you to have multiple bandwidths in a very practical way so you can do what's called Internet of Things. Internet of Things. What does Internet of Things mean? That means every object here, this object, even this business card by itself, everything can have a device on it, and everything has in some ways an IP address on it, and everything in the world can be tracked. That was really the intention of 5G. And what that means is today in China, they have 200 million cameras, one camera for every 4 people. And that is enabled through 5G. 5G is an infrastructure play, not for, part of it is for quote unquote advancing civilization. But the fundamental aspect of it is for control. With 5G, with small cameras, with all different objects, you can track everything. In fact, 5G provides the communications engine to essentially track your lips. The AI engines can run across 5G, so you can essentially monitor people. So let's go down to the fundamentals. Everyone wants to wonder, is 5G with pandemics? Is 5G with vaccines? Look, we can get into that discussion, and I'm doing quite a bit of research on this. The problem is that we don't even need to go there. And I want to put this forward to some people. There are people who are involved in the vaccine movement, and suddenly they started pushing the 5G as the center of that, versus talking about the fact that Big Pharma is the one that really has a lot of intention here in supporting mandated vaccines. So let's not get diverted, and you have to wonder that. But when you talk about 5G, what we can say definitively is this: it is for control, it is for watching all of us, and it is for basically watching every one of your moves, so we can observe everything, that the government can observe everything. The electromagnetic radiation that 5G puts out and its correlation to affecting the immune system through E&M waves, this is something that my science team, in the next about 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to have some information to share. But we are literally running it through our engine Cytosolve at the molecular systems level, so we can come back to you with some definitive answers, rather than, one of the things we want to be careful is that when we go forward with this, that there are people who want to discredit movements by putting something out, which are called correlations versus causality. We want to focus on causality, but what I can definitely say with 5G is that we're having 5G towers starting to be put up all over this country. China is at least probably 10 years ahead, but the fundamental goal of that is to monitor you, to create a deep state, a more than a minimum security environment. What else, Jen? Any other questions? What do we have here? Type bond petition. Okay. Also, get to know Jason Jones. Remind people to join you tonight. Yeah, tonight at 9 p.m., I'm going to be doing a very, very important science talk. A very important science talk of the entire hoax, of the fake science hoax that Fauci pulled off with Robert Gallo and his clan to support this HIV as the causation to AIDS. Remember, AIDS is suppression of the immune system. It's where your immune system gets suppressed. And Fauci and Gallo was the first guy. He was brought up on misconduct charges and dismissed because Fauci came to his aid. And basically the fundamental aspect here is that they created this huge fear-mongering pandemic of HIV correlated to AIDS. Multi-trillion-dollar industry got created out of that. We need to go back to that so people understand that this is not Fauci's first rodeo. And the president needs to understand this. It is a very important topic that we need to discuss, and we'll be doing that at 9 p.m. today. So everyone join us. Let all your friends know, because we need to go down to the heart of this. And the heart of this is that you have a gentleman, Pharma Fauci, who's using fake science. And I challenge him to come and debate me on this. I, in fact, will have an open conversation with anyone of the National Academy of Sciences or the NIH or the NSF who wants to have a discussion about the immune system. Anyone. This is an open discussion. This is a country of by the people, for the people.